Welcome to another edition of Tech Fireside Chats with your host, Joel Martin. Take it away, Joel.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Man, that is an energetic opening, man. I'm excited now.
I think it goes with the whole theme. I also think it's working, which is pretty good. So yeah. I'm just checking our stream here just to make sure the stream is working. It's I believe it's live. Okay.
Yeah, I got it up on LinkedIn. We're good.
Oh, really? Okay, good. So welcome to another edition of Tech Fireside Chats. It is I, Joel, your co-host, who I will die old. Love my new shirt. Just got it today. Too much coffee, man. I got John Laster, co-host, and we have a special guest, Justin Connors, who is thank you, very graciously decided to join us this afternoon from Ape Prime Esports. Did I say that correctly?
That is correct.
Right. Cool. And you know John and I, so I'm just going to let you introduce yourself. Tell us who you are. What's this about? What's Ape?
I'm Justin Connors. I'm founder and creative director of Prime Esports. I decided to start this team about a year, over a year now. Right after I did a long stint working for a company, Full Sail University, was their senior video editor, did a lot of content, did a lot of creative stuff for them. Sail, right? Yeah, I did a lot of stuff for them.
We had some guests from Full Sail. And
who'd you have from Full Sail? Who'd you have?
Just people have been there.
Okay. I worked in their in-house creative team for almost 9 years, and
I did a couple of trade shows on there too. They do Social Fest. The last year I went there, which they have this new auditorium that they rent out. So they do video production while you're doing your social media or whatever. Of course, those trade shows are probably not happening now, but for the last 2 years, they've been doing this really cool trade show there called socialfest.com. Probably not going to happen this year since
probably not.
I don't know what's happening on campus given COVID, but I imagine it's things are a little bit more difficult now, right?
For them, sorry, I mean, I don't know. I don't work there anymore, but I would say, yeah,
not my problem.
Yeah, but yeah, I worked there for a long time. And in the end, there was a lot of talk about building an esports team my last couple of years there. And a lot of people tried, a lot of people worked hard, and eventually it got some legs. And I was really excited to be a part of building up what they became, the Armada. I left kind of literally right before, I guess, the Fortress opened. But I did a lot of work in the beginning of that stuff for them. I mean, a lot of people did. But then when I decided I wanted to leave, I just wanted something new. I've been there a long time, wanted to get on my own feet and do some other things. I decided to start Ape Prime Esports because a big thing I wanted to see, which is interesting because you see it more now, but I wanted to see more diversity in esports. I wanted to see more community in esports. I wanted to see more at the time, again, I was a little more of an early adopter of like streetwear style clothing in esports and not a lot of the exact same apparel you've seen, a lot of the very traditional sports with the arms crossed and all that. I saw a lot of that in esports, and I knew based on the people that I talked to, based on the interactions I had in the community, that's not really what competition was, what gaming was, what esports was for everybody. It may have been at a certain level, but for everybody, that wasn't it. And that's kind of what I wanted to bring to Ape Prime. You can see it in all our branding. It's not about being like this.
Do you want to share your website? Maybe you can bring it up, add it as a screen.
Probably. I don't know. I've never used StreamYard before, so
so just add a screen, and you can open a secondary window. John, you've been in the esports scene for a while, and you were a Twitch streamer, and you have a lot of clients who are in the mobile game, video game industry, and I know you work with Code Firm on a lot of those things as well. I know last night we were talking about the esports industry. I mean, Justin, you can bring some. We can talk about that, right? I always say follow the money, the financial aspect where new business opportunities meet, the market realities, because COVID has brought esports to the forefront of everything. I mean, people are playing games more than ever. They're developing mobile games. They're going online. It's become a hot topic because a lot of other things are not happening. Even mobile game developers that we work with they're hot right now. They're hiring people. They're scaling up here. They're getting new contracts for new games. Investors are coming in. So, sometimes I think you're just throwing money at the wind because something's hot doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a lot of ROI and people know what they're doing. So I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be negative. Just trying to say
You're talking to the choir with me. You're saying a lot of things I say to a lot of people all the time. So
okay, good. So I'm on the right track.
Yeah.
You know, and I look at it from an advertising sales perspective because that's sort of my background. And I'm seeing we talked about this last night. John and I were talking about, I attended a show in October, Mobile Marketing Association in LA. One of the speakers got on stage, shared some slides, and some of the slides were very impressive that the younger demographics that everybody's going after, 18 to 34-year-olds, I got a question coming in, you know, they're all going for esports where like MLB and NFL, they're aging out. They're, you know, 50 average age is like 52, 57. I mean, crazy age averages watching these older sports, right? So I'm an advertiser, I'm a brand. I want to get with that young demographic that's supposedly going to buy my product and spend money. So, but does that mean a lot of people are getting into esports or sponsoring teams and there's no ROI? They're just, it's blowing up. But okay, I'll let you take it away because that's the feeling I got last night. So I want to hear your opinion.
Now, you know, again, I'm not making any $1 million deals right now or anything like that, but I can tell you that there's a lot of money that is pumped into esports with the hope, but I'd say before COVID, with the hope that it was going to pay off. But there was no guarantee of how the money was going to come back in. There's nothing that was going to say, you know, even if you look at a team like 100 Thieves or any of them, like you're pumping money into them, but if their only way of really selling something was just their apparel, that's not going to pay back, you know, a $50 million investment from a VC or any kind of money, you know, everything kind of, all the money was being brought in through sponsorships. And what you weren't seeing was what that sponsorship money was getting in return. You know, I'm still to this day, esports and all the conferences that were happening in the last year, we're all talking about content. But you see a lot of brands attaching themselves to companies and teams, and you don't see anything. You don't see any of the content. So they're not even getting money for their they're not even getting any kind of exposure based on content because they're not putting out that much. Some people are, some people aren't. But I do think that where I thought in the last year we would see a surge of content across the board for esports, all we see is a lot of talk about where the money is being spent, but not about how anybody's making their money back. And I feel like that's a sign. You know, that's a problem in itself.
Interesting. Okay, well, I mean, on that topic, content creation then, like, is the money in content creation?
I mean, I think right now the biggest currency we have in general across the board, across any spectrum, is attention. Currency is the biggest attention, and attention is the biggest currency we have. If you can get people's attention, you can make some sort of money out of it. This goes even to the people who are like big on TikTok, and you're like wondering how are they making their money. It's like, well, we're saying that they have, you know, 2.5 million followers. So I guess that means if we give them money, that's gonna influence 2.5 million followers, but it's like, no, you just have their attention, so you're giving them money. You know what I mean? I do think that if you're going to put money into a brand, that brand has to then convey why that sponsor has decided to work with them to make it important to their community. And I feel like we're seeing is a lot of sponsors dropping money on teams and even leagues, and then going, okay, so what are we going to get back? And the league being like, I don't know. Like, I guess we'll say here. We don't even see like replay clips sponsored by things at the most point right now. I don't think people are realizing that you have to engage the communities of esports, and you can't just throw money at it and go, okay, where's my money back?
Interesting. Okay. Well, I mean, John, on that topic, do you have any ideas?
No, we're definitely in a super interesting place right now when it comes to esports and streamers and all that kind of stuff. I work with a bunch of brands, and I can just tell you now that they do see very, very consistent returns when it comes to streamers. And I mean, the reality there is it really depends on how endemic and engaging the streamer makes that kind of relationship. I mean, obviously you need to follow the standard kind of disclosures and everything, that it is an ad, all that kind of stuff. But even with that, you can still do it in such a way that when you're targeting the right audience and the right streamer or the right partner, it actually fits them and feels part of them and actually sells incredibly well. I mean, you just think about it this way. When it comes to like what form of advertising is around anymore that actually functions the way it used to 20 years ago, there's not that many. I mean, most people are using ad block on the internet. Nobody's watching commercials because half of them don't have cable. You know, like I don't listen to the radio. I listen to Spotify. So, you know, most of the places that you normally see ads, like even, you know, newspapers and things like that. I don't have a newspaper subscription. You know, it's like, how do you engage with me? It really comes down to kind of product placement and those kind of endorsements, you know. And I mean, there's ways you can do them well, and there's ways you can do them poorly. But when it comes to kind of also the whole angle of investment into esports, I think that's where it's a little nebulous right now, because it really is like, are these valuations necessarily justified all the time? And are these kind of franchise fees necessarily justified all the time? I know I mentioned it yesterday, even when we were talking with Jason. I was like, well, you know, you see people like Nadeshot who cut their teeth in Call of Duty, decide not to stick with Call of Duty because he didn't think the price was worth it. You know, and that's where you've got to even kind of question it there. And it's definitely an interesting space right now. You're going to see a lot of things happen in the next few years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even with that, though, if you think about like $25 million buy-in per team in this Call of Duty league, and it feels, I mean, how do you, I'm myself, how do you have that much money pumped into a league? And sometimes you don't even know when it's on or when it's happening or where it's at. And, you know, I've always said that I thought the Call of Duty league was going to be like, I thought it was going to be a big thing. I thought they were going to have, you know, content on the level of, you know, building up to a Super Bowl all the time because they could, you know, that's the amount of money each one of these teams put into this thing. And it, you know, events will end up happening. This is even before COVID. Events would happen. And if you didn't know it was going on, if you weren't exactly following it, you would never hear about it. You know, they're streaming exclusively to YouTube and you had to find it on YouTube to watch it. Where I was like, I thought I'd get content constantly about the Call of Duty League because this was the thing they wanted to be successful. And yet it felt like it was like a whisper that it was even happening. So
That is an interesting, and that's a whole other topic. Like, where are you going to stream this? Because there's so many different streaming services now, and you know, competing against each other. Is it Facebook? Is it Amazon? Is it going to be Twitter? I mean, who is it going to be? Who's going to be? Is this going to end up being like everybody has their own service, Peacock and Netflix and Amazon, and you know, like let's come up with just some random throw out random names, right?
Well, Microsoft stepped out of that arena as of yesterday, officially, I believe. Yeah. And, you know, you kind of shrunk down a little bit because it really is. Twitch is kind of where a lot of people endemically want to go. And then YouTube's the other option in a lot of ways. Everything else is kind of playing second fiddle to try to figure it out. Yeah. You know, but those two are really the big players.
Yeah. I've been saying, I even said before Mixer went down, I was kind of confused. I never thought Mixer was going to be in the scene. I didn't think they're going to go away anytime soon, but I was kind of confused that they were going to be in the scene when they dropped as much money as they did on Shroud and Inge and all the other streamers they put it on.
What are those average sponsorships going for now for these kids that are getting sponsored?
I mean, it depends. We're talking, if you're talking like, you know, up to Ninja's side, I couldn't even, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Those numbers are ridiculous.
I mean,
I mean, they're over six figures, right?
It depends on what we're talking about.
Yeah, it depends on what we're talking about. Yeah.
The reality is they all have rate sheets. You know, you're paying this much for a video. You're paying this much for an hour of stream. You're paying this much for an Instagram live post. You're paying this much for just an Instagram post. You know,
I mean, Logic just said he's retiring from rap to
of course
on Twitch. He has to be making at least, you know, $500,000.
Well, and the other thing to think about with someone like that is his back catalog is going to continue to make him money for the rest of his career anyway. If he's remotely smart with his investments, he's set for life already. Yeah, you know, getting a 7-figure deal with Twitch, that's kind of like the icing on the cake.
Yeah, but it also doesn't hurt to have Twitch with an enormous DMCA issue that they've been dealing with, and the next big thing that they sign is a musician. You know what I mean?
That's definitely an interesting one.
Yeah, you know, I think there's something to that. I find it weird that Twitch announced a partnership with SoundCloud, I think about half a year ago, that I'd never have seen what the when I heard the DMCA Act happen, I actually thought it was going to be a setup for Twitch pushing the SoundCloud partnership that they had. And it wasn't. I still have heard nothing, even in the DMCA stuff, what the SoundCloud partnership had to do with anything.
That's like my friends have a Peloton that they got sued, and then now they have like a lot of 80s music.
Yeah, see, I'm surprised. I know there's companies out there. I forgot the name of the one that like they're trying to become the music streaming service, but I'm like, Twitch, if they have a partnership with SoundCloud, if they had all the connections they have, I'm surprised they don't have a solution for this DMCA issue. But then you're telling kids this is what you have to listen to when kids, communities themselves are going to decide what they want to listen to, you know? So,
well, I could just tell you now, as someone who was a partnered streamer, just because you're playing chill DMCA free music doesn't mean your audience wants to hear it.
Exactly.
You know, so at the end of the day, that's where it comes down to a decision on how risk averse are people, you know? Because the reality is, you know, like, are you going to get caught?
Yeah.
Should you do it? Probably not. You know, like, I'm never going to tell someone to go do that kind of thing because obviously my position as an attorney. But at the same time, I know it happens. And I mean, people are going to make their own decisions, you know?
Yeah. There's a thing that I heard talked about a few times, which is, there's a lot of communities and people who stream that like to listen just to like video game music songs from, and I'm like, I feel like that's actually the safest bet of all of them. I don't see, the Chrono Trigger guys coming out and being like, you can't play our music. I don't see, anything that's like Final Fantasy, all these games that people love the music from, them being like, oh, you can't listen to that. But if you're going to play top 40, you can't even put top 40 in your YouTube video, so I would assume people should learn that you shouldn't be streaming with it.
I'd be careful with Nintendo and some of those other ones, because honestly, they can be very strict on what is and isn't, which has always been the weirdest thing for me when we talk about something like Smash Brothers, that they've been the most hands-off probably when it comes to any form of esports. They've just kind of been like, whatever happens kind of happens, we're not going to bother with it. Whereas you have these other, platform holders that are like, franchise fees, all this other stuff, we're going to do it this way. And I know, Justin, you do a lot of stuff within the fighting game communities, and that is a bit more of a diverse scene because of the fact you don't need the same level of money to enter. So I figure that might be something interesting to chat about.
Let's get back to Ape and talk about how you represent athletes. What does that mean, representing a content creator? Imagine I've never heard of this before. And so you're like an agent, a manager?
So it's funny. It works. If you were to break it down to what does it work like for what I provide to my guys, it's kind of like an agent management kind of thing. My goal is to provide dog in the background. My goal is to provide athletes opportunities, is to provide them with sponsorships and all that. If I'm doing my job right, is that all they should have to focus on is playing the games that they want to play and being supported to do that, and me providing them whatever assets, resources. I have a strong background in branding and design and content, providing that for them and providing them the ways that they can help build themselves. My big focus is making sure that these guys and girls that play and work with us can survive even if I wasn't there, but the thing that I want is for them to appreciate and want to have Ape Prime, on their chest or wherever it is. Like, my goal is that they're proud to be a part of this brand that we're creating, and because they get to do what they do, and my job is to support that.
Nice. Wait, what's the dog's name, by the way?
This one's Hazel. Huckleberry's hiding somewhere. Yeah.
Okay. Now, just in case it comes back on the screen so I can have it.
Yeah. Yeah, she loves looking at my window whenever she thinks Amazon's going to drop something off.
Well, that's good. I mean, I like that, where they can survive even if you weren't part of it. But so they're building a career, basically. They're investing. Correct. You're investing in them. They're investing in you. And what does a successful start of a career look like? I mean, from your point of view, you got
a lot of here. It's funny it's bringing that up because there's a lot of different ways to examine that right now. Like, if you were to take, we've been working hard on trying to build a Valorant tournament or a Valorant team, right? If you were to say right now, how can we build a Valorant team? You have got certain brands and teams with VC money are just paying for players. They're saying they're giving them 20 grand a year, sometimes less, whatever. And you hear that. So then these young kids all now, when you're trying to build a team, all think they deserve money right off the bat, no matter what they've done, no matter anything, they all deserve money, right? And I think what esports has to learn is that, we have to build the team part of it now. You're seeing, guys from the Overwatch League leave just to go play Valorant, because I feel like the team aspect of what is important to esports is gone. And what I think, which is successful, is building an actual team where these guys want to play together, they want to scrimmage together, they want to win together, and through that they're going to start. If they start winning, then they can start going, okay, we're doing well. Now a brand will come in and want to sponsor us. Now when we just started to make content with you, a brand will want to sponsor that. Too many people, I think, are expecting money instantly when they have to learn. That you have to build to that, but the problem is because of how much VC money went into esports in the last year and a half.
Well, I think you touched on something really kind of key to me personally, and that's getting to sustainability.
Correct.
Like, as someone who was doing Twitch streaming for a while as a Twitch partner, it's difficult to make that work. Even when it is kind of making your ends meet, it's one of those things where you're almost feeling sometimes like you're almost captive to your own audience, because like, okay, if I take a day off, what's going to happen? And, you have a lot of different kind of worries going on there, and you need to take time for yourself, for your own mental health, take time to exercise, take time to eat right. You got to worry about a lot of different things. And
shopping.
The reality is you have that kind of audience and that kind of potential reach, but you also need to learn how to actually build it in a way that will sustain, even after you stop streaming and stuff. A lot of careers in esports and streaming right now are pretty short. You kind of age out. The reality is with even a lot of these games like
you sound like
League of Legends, you get carpal tunnel, as weird as that sounds, and you can't keep playing at the same rate, You
really sound like somebody talking about professional players. I mean, like,
at the end of the day, that's what it is.
It's the same. People like to argue with it. Yeah, people like to argue whether or not they're real players, but it's literally the same. I actually, one of the reasons why I loved esports in the beginning was something me and John talked about, which is the low floor of entry. Like anybody you can't practice playing baseball in your living room. You can't, you can't throw a touchdown pass in your living room.
Hold on, with VR you can, but
you still can. You cannot measure a ball flying at you at 90 miles an hour from your living room. I don't care what VR is doing right now.
There's a story I saw on the news I thought was very, very interesting. Ex-professional or former professional esport players are now playing games for rich kids during the day while they're at school or taking their class. Well,
I'm sure.
Yeah,
that's been around for forever. And honestly, as much as people like League of Legends have wanted to punish stuff like that, it still happens. I mean, there's people who can hit, Challenger and League and then be like, all right, I'll get some rich kid up to Diamond just for fun, and then it's just like, But I mean, that's not, it's kind of like the shady underbelly kind of in a sense, like the not really hidden secrets, the fact that if you're really good at something, someone who wants that prestige of looking good at it will pay for the prestige, Yeah,
if you're good at something, never do it for free. I mean, the problem is that we're also talking about this is still a gaming ecosystem. I mean, World of Warcraft had gold farmers, for years. It's just it's a thing that of like, you're willing to pay someone to play the game for them, then yes, they'll play the game for you.
Something interesting I've seen too is out-of-home advertising. So from a digital out-of-home and an out-of-home, let's say billboards and digital videos that's playing on, kiosks at the bus stops in New York. 5-10 years ago, you would never see upcoming sports tournament for esports being advertised. And now last time we were talking about the Mandalay Bay and the fact that brands, you're talking about car brands, pizza brands, retail brands are spending money to advertise a game in the real world, not just mobile ads or because you visited, comicbook.com or something or IGN, but, you're at the bus stop and you see upcoming, Overwatch League and Fortnite contest. That to me is shocking because you're advertising with, Fortune 500 brands. You're up there with Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola might be one of the sponsors or Pepsi. This is definitely not the 80s, right? It's not Nintendo.
Well, it's a completely different world anymore. I just remember sitting down with my fiance's family and they had Family Feud on and it was Ninja and Juju Smith-Schuster. And I mean, like, they're like, who the heck is Ninja? And it's just like, I don't know that guy, it's her dad and stuff. He doesn't follow esports, but it's just like, that guy's making a ton of money. And, they wanted him on there because he's a brand at this point,
Well, I actually think, Joel, you hit on something that I think was a problem I heard in a lot of conferences last year, which is still this talk of people who play games as if they're, basement dwellers or, kids that are sitting at home eating Doritos and all that. And it's like, I feel like gaming and esports has raised to a level that, like, who I think about now that like sits in their house and eats Doritos and watches is a guy who's watching college football to a school he never went to, or watching football and just hyping up a team. Like those are the guys that I'm thinking are just sitting around doing nothing, hyping up a sport. Where these kids now literally grind this stuff all day, every day, not just because they like the sport, but they love the community.
It's not just that. It's cool. I mean, you have Superman himself, The Witcher, building
a computer.
Yeah, building a computer live online. I mean, Henry Cavill is like basically, and he does it, and he makes mistakes, and he puts in his own gaming computer, and he has to go backwards and build it.
One of the cool things about esports in general, though, is like I can watch someone streaming who is a pro, and they'll be on Twitch, and I can comment in their chat. They might actually see it and respond. And someone might just sit down and be like, oh, you want to know how to do that? Here. And they'll show you, which is not something you'd necessarily see in traditional sports. But even then, LeBron could tell me 1,000 times how to do some kind of crazy dunk. I don't have the physicality to do it. With esports, it's like, okay, it's a little bit more of an open kind of forum there where anybody can kind of theoretically do it.
Justin, we're coming up on time. I like to keep it short and sweet, but you you run a business. You represent athletes and content creators. And if somebody is really good and they think, hey, maybe I should go pro, tell me what's the process of contacting you? How do I get involved? I'm a sponsor. I'm a local business or a regional business. I have some advertising dollars I want to invest during the age of COVID. How do we talk to you? What do we talk to you about? What's the next step?
A big thing for me, you can reach me at, I think you have aprimeesports@gmail.com. You can go to the website. We have a Discord, which is our Aprime Discord. I'm pretty accessible. I stream, I'm, jconfilm.tv. You can find me pretty much anywhere. I'm not hard to find. I do think that I would love to, this again, with COVID right now, it's hard to have any, I would have loved to have seen more local businesses be a part of esports. I was a big fan of wanting to hopefully get like Foxtail Coffee into, esports. And, I'm big on hopefully getting water brands at the time into esports. I thought Essentia is prime and set up to be a part of esports, and they haven't, breached that gap yet. But I mean, these are all the things
now, because of COVID, I feel every brand is national. Everybody is selling online. Everybody is competing against everybody. It's survival of the fittest in a weird way. But it's brought video games, mobile games, digital advertising, out-of-home advertising into this ecosystem that is all becoming very, very important to every business. So this is a great advertising opportunity, marketing opportunity. I mean, you're elevating these guys that can be your spokespeople from home. They can make videos talking about your product, about your website, about your e-commerce shopping center, just because they're playing this game and they have thousands of listeners and people viewing them. I think we were talking last night, John, what was it? 100 million people watching the league, right? I mean,
the numbers get insane when you start talking about like the finals for LCS or Dota. Like they're just absolutely nuts. But in general, I mean, the numbers you're seeing are not that far off of like midweek basketball games for most of these things. So and when you start thinking about it in that context, it's like,
plus LCS and the Dota tournaments. I mean, they're years in the making of the numbers that they're at now. So that's why you don't, even though they want to have it, that's why you don't see the Overwatch League or CDL or, I hate to say, any real North American tournament get that kind of love, because you're competing against tournaments and communities that have been doing this for a long time, and people are just now getting a hold of it.
But let's say you want to do a regional tournament, or you want to do something. How much money does a business have to invest with your team, let's say, to get started?
I mean, I couldn't honestly give you. It depends on what you're trying to do. At one point in time, we had an athlete who was literally traveling the United States to go to different things, and I can tell you easily, just to sponsor him, bring him that, you're talking already up in the words into the 30 and 40 grand just to sponsor one athlete.
Before, right?
He doesn't have to try. Now he does. I mean, he's not a part of our team anymore. We got away from that. But but at the time though, that was a big deal. And this is just if you want to do basic, brand on, apparel, whatever it is, that kind of, that's a simple thing. Now,
but it's $60,000. That's affordable for
that's. That's what you'd think that though, but I'm talking, those are low numbers. That's almost probably low balling, But if brands need to come to this, and I think it should be if you're giving money for that kind of thing, then you should also come with a plan for content that actually makes more money back. And I do think a lot of brands are putting money into the space without a real content plan in place.
I think that's the biggest thing for me as someone who does work with a few brands and a few streamers in the space, that I see both sides of it. The deal only works if it's actually kind of bringing money to the table for both ends. Like otherwise you're kind of eventually going to run out of, money to just kind of get, and if I keep putting money into something and I never see a return, there's going to be a problem. But if you're doing that, you're probably not coming out with an engaging content strategy. There's plenty of ways to make the brand actually make sense for the content and the streamer and the audience, and there's ways you can do it well.
Yeah, let me throw something at you, Justin. I just developed a new mobile game. I hired 302 Interactive or somebody to come up with a game, and I want to promote that game. Is anybody hiring? There's influencers and there's micro influencers. Has anybody used the esports community micro influencers? You don't need to get the top name, right? But you can get a couple of small regional names.
I actually think, that's a big thing on Steam. When people are releasing games on Steam, they actually are looking. A lot of them will reach out. They'll post on their Twitter that we're looking for people who want to take part in our game, that want to promote it. But obviously,
have you done any of that?
One of my streamers, Marcus he's High Defined, twitch.tv/High Defined. He actually has done that many times. He's a big fan of that. Right now, he's mainly trying to compete. He's working on Runeterra. He was our Gears of War player for a little bit too. He's big on trying to compete, but he's an amazing streamer, and he's been approached a few times about doing different games, creating content for them. It's definitely a market that people do, but a lot of those guys, again, if they're going the micro level way, they're just doing it for exposure, and so they're not even putting up that much money. But it is a thing that people will pay to have people play your game.
Well, I got to tell you now, I've handled that for multiple companies, and I've also seen the bigger end ones for something like an Apex, gotten to hear from the people involved with that. And I mean, there's a lot of money coming to the table for those kind of deals. And, even if you're looking at just finding some streamers, I mean, the reality is you're not going to get a return unless they actually really do engage with your product.
Yeah.
You can't just hand someone a check and be like, I hope you like my game.
Yeah,
it's not really going to work out for you in a positive way. Typically, you're normally just kind of throwing money away. But like, if you can find a way to engage in a more meaningful way, and I mean, obviously, always worry about all those kind of compliance things you need to do with sponsorships and all the FCC guidelines. But like, there's options there.
This is a paid spokesperson.
Yeah, and there's the thing about saying that too is that's obviously, again, there's more. The money is actually in gaming versus esports, and that's where a lot of people get confused. There's a big difference between the two of them. But I think if any company is trying to put together a game and have a streamer play it, they have to make sure that they're not telling the streamer what they can and can't say, what they can and can't do about that. Because I mean, it'll be fake, and people will notice.
Have the fun.
Yeah, it's real easy to tell when something doesn't feel real or when someone isn't enjoying a product. And if someone's streaming your game and they're not really enjoying it, who's benefiting from that? The audience isn't, streamer isn't, and the brand isn't. It's just a bad fit.
Well, this has been very, very interesting. Had a good time, and I know we're out of time here, but I do want to continue this conversation. And I think my video is a little slight delay there, but I do want to continue on another episode. I think people are ordering lunch again. Jeez, man. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I'm gonna let me take this off. I have no idea what's happening. My thing just I'm gonna have to say bye. Great episode. Thank you, John. Thank you, Justin. See you in the next on the next episode.
Thanks again, everyone.
See you guys.
Thanks for watching, and join us next week on Tech Fireside Chats.
All right, I think we're still live.